All right, let's get right into it. We're about to break down a conflict that isn't really being fought with armies, but with the very energy that powers our world. This is the US-Iran energy war, and honestly, it's putting the entire global economy right on the edge. And that's really the big question, isn't it? How did a standoff in one part of the world manage to spiral into a crisis that has everyone everywhere holding their breath? The answer? Well, it shows us a brand new and, frankly, pretty scary reality for all of us. You see, this is the single most important idea to get your head around. Forget traditional warfare for a second. This is a battle for economic survival, and it's being waged with pipelines and oil tankers. To really understand just how high the stakes have gotten, we need to start right at the crisis point, the exact moment the whole global economy pretty much ground to a halt. You've probably heard the military slang snafu, right? It stands for situation normal, all fouled up. And believe me, that is putting it mildly, because in this scenario, Iran, pushed to its absolute limit, has just shut down one of the most critical shipping lanes on the entire planet. The flow of global energy gets choked off, and just like that, the world is in a total deadlock. So how on earth did we get here? I mean, this didn't just happen overnight. No, this was a slow burn. It was a series of moves and countermoves that just kept raising the stakes higher and higher until the whole thing finally, inevitably, just caught fire. And this quote right here, it really gets to the core of the psychology of what's going on. For years, Iran's responses to things were, very calculated, very limited. But in this incredibly high-stakes game, that restraint wasn't seen as smart or strategic. No, it was seen as weakness. Okay, so let's just trace this out. Back in 2020, after the Soleimani assassination, Iran's response was a missile strike that they actually warned everyone about beforehand, so there were no fatalities. Then you fast forward to April 2024. An Iranian consulate gets hit, and again, Iran's response is really limited. You see the pattern, right? It's a pattern of restraint. But the analysis we're looking at here projects a tipping point, a hypothetical assassination of their supreme leader. And that, it argues, that would be the absolute final straw. It would shatter that policy of restraint and force them to play their biggest card. Because at the heart of this whole thing, it all boils down to two incredibly important spots on the map. Two choke points that basically define this whole new kind of war. So what is an economic choke point exactly? Well, think of it like any narrow passage, a strait, a canal, where tons of global trade gets funneled through. It becomes concentrated, and because of that, it becomes vulnerable. If you can control that choke point, you control the flow of all that commerce. And in this energy war, both the US and Iran have their hands on one. And this right here is the whole strategic map of the conflict. It's fascinating. The US can target Iran's biggest vulnerability, this place called Karg Island, which is basically its economic lifeline. But in response, Iran can use its own ultimate weapon, its ability to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point for the entire world. It's a textbook case of asymmetric warfare, where each side is targeting the other's unique weakness. I mean, just let that number sink in for a minute. 90 to 95%. Almost all of Iran's oil money, the very lifeblood of its economy, flows through this one tiny little island. If you take out the infrastructure there, you basically unplug Iran from the global economy in an instant. Now, on the other side of that coin is Iran's massive leverage. A full 1/5 of the entire world's oil has to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. So by closing it, Iran is essentially holding the global energy supply hostage. The key takeaway here is that both sides have their finger on a really, really sensitive economic trigger. But here's the thing. This isn't just a two-player game. Not at all. The minute these choke points are threatened, the entire world gets dragged onto the chessboard. It's this incredibly complex web. So an attack on Karg Island, it doesn't just cripple Iran. It directly slams China, which is a huge buyer of their oil. But then, when Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, U.S. allies like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, they can't get their own oil out. They literally become hostages in the conflict, which puts this immense pressure back on Washington to do something as global energy prices just go through the roof. So what all this does is it shifts the conflict away from a quick, decisive military battle and turns it into this grueling war of attrition. One that's fought not with soldiers, but with economic staying power. I mean, it's the obvious question, right? In a normal war, victory is measured by, how much land you take. But here, the rules are completely different.
And maybe that's where we have to shift our whole perspective. The winner here isn't the side with the bigger bombs or the fancier jets. It's the side whose economy can absorb the punishment, whose society can withstand the pressure for longer. This is a contest of pure economic resilience. And that kind of leaves us with this final and pretty sobering thought. In the 21st century, real power might not come from the barrel of a gun anymore. It might just come from the spigot of an oil pipeline. Controlling these energy lifelines, that has become the new high ground in global conflict. And this deadlock, it's showing all of us just how fragile that whole system really is.